Greetings, everyone. Dale Parrish, host COS Today. Welcome to COS Today. And I'm joined today with my co-host, Mr. Ken Kashuba. How you doing, Ken?
Pretty good, Dale. Pretty good. Trying to stay dry on a wet day here in Indiana.
Yeah, it's kind of wet up in our area too. So it's that time of year, springtime.
Yeah, spring has sprung, huh?
Huh?
Spring has sprung, and my only problem is I got to cut my lawn every two or three times a week now.
Well, I don't have to worry about that anymore.
I know you sold your mower and moved to.
I did.
All you have to worry about is painting, right? You don't have to do anything but paint.
Yeah, well, I don't even have to do that, quite honestly.
For a while, anyway.
Yeah. But we're still digging out, still looking for things that we know we brought with us. We just can't find them readily. But
that's all right. You won't miss that lawnmower. I know you won't.
We're doing fine. We're doing fine. Enjoying it, quite honestly. Well, listen, I haven't showed this in some time, but folks, this is Skip is my little note to skip this normally, but I'm not going to skip it tonight. This is number 348, broadcast 348, and Ken, you've been along for 206 of them. So
I thought you just renamed me Skip.
No, I should take that off, but it's my little note to skip this.
Well, you know me, Dale. I'll answer to anything. So go ahead, call me Skip. That's okay.
Well, folks, we're going to tonight. We're going to do our first segment, in focus segment, but we're going to be brief with it tonight. Won't be as long as normal. But then we're going to get into. We got a couple things we're going to show after the in focus segment. Then we're going to get into what we call the COS perspective segment, and this is going to be a deeper dive into what's going on in our country today, and I hope you enjoy it. It's kind of a little bit new to us, so we'll see how it goes. So anyway, we'll bring on our guests this evening, and these guests will be with us for both segments. So let's bring them on at this time, and there's Mr. Gary Harbaugh. Hi, Gary.
Greetings, gentlemen.
Turn your volume up a little bit. Can't hear you quite as much. Gary's the Convention of State Director here in Indiana. And then we have Miss Debbie Stewart.
Hi, Debbie.
Hola.
Debbie's very much a regular contributor for our broadcast. We're always happy to have her along. Homeschool teacher. Any other titles, Debbie?
Well, I taught at a Latin school and a Liberty Academy. I tutor and just all around clean the house kind
of. All right. And then we have another one of our regulars, Mr. Brett Sturley, CEO Convention of State Director for State of Missouri.
Hi, Brett.
And hello, Brett. How you doing?
Hello, everyone. Doing well.
Can't hear you. Turn your volume up a little bit, or is it my volume?
I don't know.
I could use a little
hearing aids in.
That's a little better.
That's better. Okay.
Okay. There we go.
All right. Good. Well, let's. In this segment, as you know, we just talk about what's recently caught our interest in the news. In other words, what's got our focus right now in the news and what's going on in our country. So, Debbie, you told me you found something. So, so why don't you lead us off?
Okay, well, this is upbeat. Yesterday was Rededicate 250 in Washington, D.C. at the mall. And for those who don't know, we had lots of leaders, political leaders, religious leaders all show up on the Washington Mall. And there were worship bands playing and people giving some speeches. And there were three main pillars. One was let's look at the miracles that made us as America. So we wanted to reflect on God's providence through the last 250 years, honoring the faith and America's founders. The second pillar was the miracles still in our midst. So personal testimonies of God's healing in our lives and in our land. And the third pillar was a new birth of faith and freedom. And so that was an expression of a lot of people of gratitude for 250 years of freedom. And it was a unified moment to rededicate our land to God for his blessings, guidance, and grace for the next 250. So there were a lot of people that went physically were there on the National Mall. And it went from like 10 in the morning till about 6:30 last night. And then there were a lot more people that live streamed into the event.
Really? I know it was pretty hot day in Washington, D.C. yesterday, wasn't it?
No, I'm not sure about that. I had a good friend go, but she didn't say anything about the heat at all. So.
Oh, really? How many people did they have there? Did you heard any numbers or anything?
I knew you were going to ask me that. Like just about 3 seconds ago. I don't know, but I saw that they had a lot of chairs up front. And then there was a lot of people had blankets on the lawn behind there, but I don't know how many total.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
So,
and I saw bits.
Yeah, President Trump is on there. Yep.
Yeah, President Trump delivered it was a video message, I understand, but
it was.
Yeah, I watched Newsmax carried it. I think they carried the whole thing, quite honestly. So I got to see bits and pieces of it all day long. But yeah, it's quite a gathering. So,
well, I think there's something to be said when our top leaders get together to rededicate the nation to God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not just any God, but and that people like Pete Hegseth spoke, Marco Rubio spoke. There were lots of others too. And then President Trump, of course, had already done a message and sent that. And I think he talked about Solomon and his role in building the temple. And but I think that was a really good thing for us to kind of reorient and get back where the plumb line is, where it should be. And there were a lot of declarations and prayers, and it was a time of, just refocusing.
Yeah. Do you think, I was going to ask you this off to the side, but I'll ask you on air here. Do you think faith in America is a topic we ought to get into maybe on COS perspective sometime? Faith in America?
Well, you can kind of ask the other guys in the group, but I think faith is such an integral part of so many people's lives that I think, yes, it's because of my faith in God is that he tells me to go for the prosperity of the community I live in, because in doing that, then the nation prospers and then we all prosper. So a lot of the conservative principles are based on biblical values. So if I wasn't believing in the biblical values, I'm not so sure how much of the conservative movement I would believe in. Does that make sense? So I do think that many of us, our foundation is our faith.
Well,
it's great.
One of the reasons I asked that is, of course, that's part of our core values in Convention of States, is the Judeo-Christian values. So I think that, I don't know, it's something maybe we can talk about, see how that might work out as a topic. There's certainly seems to be a movement going on in our country, returning to faith in America. So anyway, just a thought. So we'll talk.
Yeah, sounds great.
All right, Brett, what's on your mind, my man?
Well, I think just dovetailing on the previous conversation, I definitely think we should get into faith. We don't have to make it, a revival or anything like that, but it is one of our core values, and without faith, without the understanding. I mean, our framers, the founding fathers, were believed in God, believed there was a divine intervention in the 1787 convention, and that's where our absolute truth is. Without absolute truth, we're not going to be able to save this country. So I definitely think why we need a political awakening. That's not going to happen without a religious awakening as well. I'm all for that. What I was thinking about here today, and it's not specifically one story, it's just kind of a conscious stream of several stories and observations, is that the conservative movement seems to be a little fractured right now, and that concerns me with the upcoming midterm elections. And I mean that in that you have people who seem to be somewhat sane in the past. I would say like a Tucker Carlson. His monologues on Fox News were a must see. Now he's subscribed to the Sharia law is okay. They've got some better aspects about Sharia law than what we do in our constitutional republic, and everything's Israel's fault. And this is something that's kind of bled into the Looney Tune Candace Owens. Megyn Kelly has started on some of this stuff here, which is disappointing. I used to like listening to her. And then you have somebody like Nick Fuentes that is a rabid anti-Semite and white nationalist, in my opinion, based upon his words that he uses. But I just think that it's kind of bled into here, especially here in Southwest Missouri. What I've really noticed, and it seems like it's in other parts of the country, is that you have a group of conservatives that are pragmatic and will say, hey, you know what, we need to slowly move, the party, in this case, the Republican Party, back to conservative values and reinstill conservative values. And then you have a portion there, not of that group, but another group that is just like, well, nothing's good enough. We have to have, they're the absolutists. We have to have an absolute ban on abortion, like right now, 5 minutes, which I'm not saying that's not the right goal. Probably not going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Probably not going to happen this election cycle. There's other things that have to be done. We're going through Missouri. We're going through a proposal to repeal the income tax. Right now, it's all just the only thing that's being discussed, or the only thing that's up for a vote here right now is asking the people of Missouri, do you give the legislature permission to phase out the state income tax and replace it? It would be with an expanded sales tax base, more consumption tax. I think that's a whole lot more fair than a state income tax. Yeah, people, well, I don't know. I'm not going to support that because they're not telling me all the details. And I'm like, well, let's think about this. You complain about how big the Missouri Constitution is, and a lot of our state constitutions, because there's lots of stuff in there that belong in state statutes, but then you're going to oppose repealing the income tax because they're not putting all the details in the Constitution. That's not where it belongs. And so I just see just a real big disconnect in the conservative limited government movement. And whenever you sit here and you look at our opponents, I mean on the other side of the aisle, I mean, they want to lop healthy baby parts off of children, or cut and paste body parts on other healthy children. They're for wide open borders. They're openly saying that, hey, we're going to destroy the Supreme Court by packing it. And since we can't get everything that we want through the courts, and we're just going to pack it so we do get everything through the courts, we need to perpetually control the Senate. So we're going to we need statehood for Puerto Rico. We need statehood for Washington, D.C., which would take a constitutional amendment to do. And I just see how loony and how to completely off the hook that the left is. And what I'm concerned about is people who agree on most of the issues on the conservative side, liberty-loving, pro-constitutionalists, that I'm afraid that we're just going to divide ourselves, and then the left is going to run right straight through the middle and pick up gains. And I just think that on the state level, federal level, local level, I just think that battling that agenda, it's not really party driven, but just battling the two different agendas, how in the world can we possibly lose to these people? And the only way that we can lose is by doing it to ourselves. And so I guess it's just an open plea for sanity that, hey, if we don't like what the Republican majority is doing now, we're going to be in a really bad mood if the left gains the majority. And so
do you not think that the left may be fragmented as well? I got to believe that there are people on the left, Democrats, that don't believe in boys and girls sports, don't believe in open borders, don't believe in some of the far left things that we hear about. I don't know. Am I wrong, or do you think are they all? Because I've often heard I've heard some people that I think are pretty good Democrats say that part of their party has gone too far left.
Well, they have, and I think that's right. But I'll give you a specific case, and I do think that they are fragmented. If you get them one-on-one and talk to each other, if you get them in a group, they're not. And I'll give you an example. This happened last week, and this was something that was argued in the Missouri on the Missouri House floor. They were entertaining the bill was the Born Alive. The Born Alive Act. I can't remember the exact total. There was 4 words to it. Anyway, it was basically what it was. If a child survived, I don't call it abortion. I call it child sacrifice. That's what I think it is. Mm-hmm. If a child survived a child sacrifice procedure and was fully born, fully outside the womb, then should it be in Missouri state statute that doctor has to treat that baby with life-saving care, or do they just let it lay there and die? Mm-hmm. And you had Democrats on the floor that were arguing, oh, this is an anti-abortion bill. No. The baby is alive. The baby is right there, completely out of the birth canal. You're deciding whether you can commit infanticide. You can commit murder, basically, is what you're doing. And just listening to some of this, and there was one argument made, because the penalty was going to be first-degree murder against the abortion provider, which I'd say that's what it is. Well, in this one Democrat still on the floor said, well, first-degree murder, you're taking the decision-making out of the jury's hand, out of the judge's hand, because that requires premeditation. I'm like, so are you telling me that the doctor, when he was driving to the Planned Parenthood, or I'm going to go here and I'm going to sacrifice 5 children today, are you saying he just accidentally performed an abortion? You say he just accidentally did that? I mean, I'm like, and so I think that thankfully that bill passed. But I spoke with one of the bill sponsors last Friday, and I thanked him for his work on the floor. And he said that he has had about half a dozen Democrats come by his office here so far, and that was that's about 36 hours after the bill passed. He said he's had half a dozen Democrat legislators come by his office and say, "Hey, you know what? I agree. I agree with the bill. I agree with you. I just can't vote that way."
Yeah.
I'm like, so, and that comes back to faith. Who are you serving? Mm-hmm. I serve one person. I serve the Lord, my Lord Jesus Christ. I serve God. I don't serve anybody else. But the left they will serve the party first. They know this is wrong, and they will still vote for it. And
Yeah.
So yes, they are fragmented, but they vote in lockstep.
Yeah. All right. Good topic. Gary, how about you?
Well, Dale, I just have a few observations on the geopolitical specter of what's going on in the world today. And as far as the Iran war is going, I think Trump is his negotiating strategy in some ways is to be a master of unpredictability. He says he's going to attack, and then he says, oh, no, well, we're not going to. And he was going to attack, but the Middle East leaders asked him not to. And so I think part of that is just he wants to be unpredictable. And I think we saw this same thing with the trip to China. China's been widely, regarded as our number one geopolitical foe in the whole world. And yet, what did Trump do? Trump went to China and said, hey, basically, let's be friends. And he used his charm, I think, to build a good relationship with Xi. And what's the outcome of that going to be? It was certainly unpredictable. A lot of people thought they were going to be over there arguing about Taiwan and this and that. But he's kind of trying to turn China, I think, from being a foe into being a friend. And one of the things we see in the financial markets as a result of all this is we've been riding a wave of optimism. It's carried the financial markets higher and higher to kind of nosebleed levels in terms of historical valuations. And that may be breaking. It looks like interest rates have kind of risen back up. And so Kevin Warsh, the new Fed chief, is between a rock and a hard place because the economy seems to be saying we don't need rate cuts. But I'm sure Donald Trump is saying, hey, we need rate cuts. So I don't know. It's a lot of negotiation, and Trump maintains his unpredictability. And so who knows what's going to happen next?
Well, I hope that whatever is being proposed this time, I hope it's meaningful, because I really think that it was getting to the point where he needed to do something, and I don't know. I think based on past experience, I think he's probably still going to have to do something, but we'll see. I
think one of the things that he has made, there's one, red line you cannot cross, is he's saying that Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. And virtually everybody in the world agrees with him on that. And I think he wants to continue this negotiation as long as he can to try to get them there. But ultimately, I don't think he's going to bend on that.
Yeah, I certainly hope not. I mean, that seems to be the ultimate goal. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, okay. All right. Ken, what do you got on your mind?
Well, I'm going to stray away from all of the stuff that kind of distresses us on the In Focus segment sometimes. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 250th coming up, and that includes it's not specific for our 250th, but it happens to be coinciding with some of the things that will be going on. It happens to be the World Cup that's going to be played here in the United States. And I saw an interesting article about England, and their World Cup soccer stars are taking their own bedding to the U.S. after complaints over hotel mattresses. Now, I think we've all had a time or two when we've had a bad mattress at a hotel and you can't sleep. But the England is going to the point where they're actually going to provide. Let me see if I can get it. There's going to be personalized, custom-made bedding to ensure optimal sleep conditions for the players, as the Three Lions team seeks to earn England's only second FIFA World Cup trophy at the upcoming tournament. So I'll go ahead, because this was in the article. They are pointing at the Inn at Meadowbrook. It's a hotel near Kansas City. that they're working with the hotel, but they will certainly be providing personalized custom bedding for their team. And I'm wondering, the thing that caught my attention about this was, I'm wondering what we're going to be doing for the U.S. team. I mean, what is it that we will do for the team? I'm not sure. Are we going to be providing them with all the things that certainly will provide them the most restful sleep and the best physical condition they can be in? I'm not sure. We're pretty divided on everything else in this country. So just a light touch on the World Cup coming up here in this summer, and I think that along with our 250th, I'm hoping that this 250th celebration, and again, there's some doubt here because I'm hoping that the 250th really reunites the country, at least a little bit for a little bit of time. That's kind of my point.
I agree. You were a soccer player, weren't you?
Yeah, I played semi-professional soccer after I got out of college for a couple of years for a German team, German club.
Did you?
Back in the days when the Major League Soccer was just getting started in the United States, and the team that was closest to where I was playing was the New York Cosmos. They featured Pele and Giorgio Canaglia, a number of the great soccer stars of years bygone, and and of course my time with that kind of ended a little bit short due to a knee injury, and I'm paying for that today.
Is that right?
Well, it's one of those things that's haunted me in my later years. There's comes a time when I guess I'm gonna have to make the decision to have it repaired. But anyway, it was fun time. Well, the Germans, by the way, know how to party. They know how to drink and have a good time after a game. That's for sure. So it's nothing like giving us good bedding. It was always Jägermeister and a big jug of beer.
All right, very, very good, very good. Okay, well, I'm going to just wind it up here with. I caught a report today. This. Am I saying his name right? Mangione trial going on in New York, where sometimes our legal system is just unbelievable. I mean, we got video of this man killing this guy, and we're going through this horrendous trial process that's taking forever, and I sometimes our legal system just baffles me. But as you know, if you've heard or followed this at all, there are people that are following him. That he has a group of supporters out in our society, people that are supportive of what he has done, and I caught a little bit of an interview. A reporter caught up with 3 ladies that were part of this group outside the courthouse today that were supporters of his, and they were just saying how what he did was justified. They called it something justice, and I can't remember what the first term was, but it was some sort of acceptable justice that he did because of the gentleman represented an insurance company. But the one that really got me was the third lady that said, I think the reporter asked or brought up the point about, well, he was a father, he has children, and this third woman said, well, his kids will be better off without him as a father. So I just thought, my goodness, what does our society come to? How can we get to this kind of an attitude about a person that killed another person in cold blood like that. I don't understand that. Kind of leads into what we're going to be talking about tonight in our COS perspective. There are things happening in this country, I think, that are creating this type of stuff. And so anyway, that's kind of what's on my mind, or what caught my attention today, among other things. I'm with Gary. I follow this Iran thing every day and wonder what's going to happen next. And I'm going to mention one other thing here that has nothing to do with what we've been talking about. Are you all familiar with in sports, the NIL? You know how college players are getting paid?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's moving down into the high school level now, and has been at the high school level, quite honestly. And now Indiana, I understand, was one of the 6 states that did not participate in this, but now we're going to participate in it. So I know very little about it, but guys, we're talking about paying high school players.
So now you're telling me, Dale, that these high schoolers that have an ambition to get paid and move up into the college ranks and then into the pro ranks, that once they get there, they won't even be able to calculate the amount of money they're making or their taxes, or they won't be able to read their contracts. Now, this is concerning. What happens to these guys? They can't read or write or do arithmetic.
But they'll have very nice cars.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You're talking about custom bedding. I'm sure they'll have very comfortable
cooling pillows, the whole 9 yards. Yep.
I was talking to a lady recently that had family down in Kentucky, and they had a kid in their family that was a very good football player, high school level now, and he was offered a new car if he would play ball for this school. So this is coming down to the high school level. It's already there at the high school level.
What happens in the first week of practice with a season-ending injury?
I don't know.
Does he have to turn the car back in, or does he turn into the Flintstones and you have to pedal a new car? I don't know.
It's
just, this is mind-boggling. Yeah.
It's not good. It's not good. That's completely. I don't know. Maybe that is part of what's going on in this country that is very disturbing. But anyway, I just thought I'd throw that out there. Guys, that's it for the In Focus segment. Thank you very much. We said we would keep it pretty brief tonight, so we will, and we'll end it there. We got a couple things that Ken and I want to play for everyone. Got John Ackerman doing a soapbox for us. And then we'll be bringing our guests back for the In Focus, the COS Perspective segment following this short break. So everybody take a little break and we'll see you in a bit. All right. Thank you. All right, Ken. That's a good one. Have you heard anything about the NIL? Ken, have you followed that?
Not at the high school level. I know that obviously there was I don't know, this goes back a little ways. Trump actually held something at the White House where they were talking about the college problem of paying players, and that was being addressed. And I think it was pretty much an agreement from, some of the highest recognized coaches and other people around that said, this we got to fix this. These guys can't be making millions of dollars before they even step on the field.
Yeah. Well, they are. Some of them are.
Yeah. So I know it was being addressed on the college, but I didn't know it was slipping all the way down into high school. Although the way that things go, Dale, in sports, I think if we went back even just a couple of decades, we'd probably find out in a couple of situations that some of these high school stars were probably getting a little something under the table to make a decision. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me.
Going on for a long time, probably.
Yeah.
All right, Ken. Well, John Ackerman has given us another soapbox segment here, and he's going to talk about early voting. So, very good topic. So, let's hear what John has to say here.
All right.
John Ackerman for Convention of States. I want to ask you a question about early voting. Is it worth it? In a word, no. And here's why. I was asked to serve as a poll worker for early voting. I worked about 8 hours on each of 2 Saturdays, April 25th and May 2nd. There were 6 of us on the payroll. 2 Republican judges, that's the poll worker who takes you to the voting machine. 2 Democrat judges. 1 Republican clerk, that's the worker who checks you in and hands you a ballot. And 1 Democrat clerk. The lead judge gets paid $175, and the other 5 workers get paid $125 each. That's a total payroll of $800 for 1 day of early voting. The $800 one-day payroll would have been the same at each early voting site. Add to that payroll the payment of rent for the building. I don't know what the charge for rent was, plus the cost of lunch for each of the 6 workers. Each one of us was allowed to spend up to $15 for lunch. Pretty soon, you're talking about some real money. The site where I worked had 7 days of early voting. That's a total payroll of $5,600 for 7 days of early voting. All the workers deserved their pay. Those are long days. But this was $5,600 of taxpayer money, plus rent, plus meals. Let that sink in. Close to $6,000 of your hard-earned money so some voters could vote early. And that was only one of the sites that was open for early voting in my county. Do the math, and you'll see the enormous cost to taxpayers for early voting. After we closed the last day of early voting, the total number of ballots received over all 7 days of early voting was, wait for it, only 752. Only 752 voters over 7 days took advantage of the opportunity to vote early in the May primary at that particular voting site. If you divide the $5,600 payroll by 752 ballots, you see that each ballot cast early at that one site cost taxpayers $7.45. With the polls open 12 hours on primary day, which was May 5th, and with absentee ballots and mail-in ballots available, I maintain that the cost to the taxpayer of $7.45 per ballot for early voting is simply not worth it. I say that we should return to one election day and drop all this early voting. It is simply not worth it to the taxpayer. With absentee ballots and mail-in ballots available, there is no need for days and days and days of early voting. Let's have one election day.
Another good one by John. You know, I would add to that, Dale. I'd add to that by saying not only should we have one election day, but it should be a national holiday. And I mean, think about it. I mean, we have chocolate chip day. We have, take your dog to work day. We have all kinds of things that are made up to, obviously support the greeting card and the flower shop and everything else. But I think if we really just had one full national holiday that was designed around voting, that should suffice. And the only other thing, obviously, your military and people that have a legitimate, reason to either mail in a vote, mail in their ballot early, or get that kind of treatment. And I did that once in my lifetime. I knew I was not going to be able to vote. I went through the process. I had to go down to my state house. I had to go in, show my ID, and register to vote early, because I had a reason that I had to. But overall, I think we've gotten so far away from just an election day.
Yeah.
So I agree with John wholeheartedly, and hearing those numbers, wow,
In some states, the early voting is really early, and geez, some of them even had late voting. I don't know if that's still legal anymore, but yeah, I agree. I think he brings up a good point. Very good point. All right. Well, let's get another Dave's Daily Dose out here for us to look at. These are created by David Punt, out of State Director for COS in Missouri, and he's got another one here for us. And let's take a listen here on this one.
Two pieces from one of my favorite websites, The Federalist, start us leading towards our birthday celebration later on this year. The 4th of July, to be exact, 250 years old. Many happy returns, America. The first piece by Greg Schaller suggests that this would be a great time to restore some of those statues ripped down during our recent woke madness tantrum. The second is a piece by Sean Fleetwood about a recent Clarence Thomas speech about the Declaration of Independence, and a clear and present warning. Just because we made it 250 years doesn't mean our nation will make it that much longer. This is Dave's Daily Dose on BrokenRoadRadio.com. I'm David Allen Punt. Greg Schaller went to Caesar Rodney High School in Camden, Delaware, just south of Dover. Rodney signed the Declaration of Independence, fought in the American Revolutionary War, served in the Delaware legislature for a number of years, and in the summer of '76, as American colonial delegates were deciding whether to break from England or not, was home in bed. He had always suffered from severe asthma and began his battle against a case of facial cancer, the disease that would eventually kill him. He got word that the two Delaware delegates were deadlocked on the question of independence, so he mounted up and rode 80 miles to align his state with the others and the revolution. But the founding father owned slaves. Caesar Rodney's name was not removed from the high school, but a statue in Wilmington was taken down during the progressive madness known as the Black Lives Matter moment. Clarence Thomas is a black man, one of the two African Americans on the Supreme Court. He spoke recently at the University of Texas and said what disappoints us about our leaders so often is that they don't step up to do the right thing, to sacrifice the popularity, flattery, comfort, and security that are the purchase price for principle. In his speech, Thomas tracked progressivism back to the days of Woodrow Wilson and the notion that our rights didn't come from God, but from a better form of government, one that could get even better. But God knows we're not perfect and won't become so, even if we have a perfect government filled with lots of experts to fix us, from things like owning people. Thomas said we must stand up and take ownership of our country and stop letting others control how we think. Putting Caesar Rodney back would be a great start. I'm David Allen Punt.
Ken, did I say David Punt was the state director of Missouri? Did I say that?
I think you did, and he might welcome that at this point. Although I think Brett would have a little contention with that. But
well, Brett sent me a text saying that I claimed that I was trying to replace him as the state director of Missouri. But
actually, when you bring back Brett, if you're still in the green room listening, they wanted to do a trade. They want to trade. They want to send you to Minneapolis, and Dave's going to come down to Missouri because you've done a heck of a good job down there, and I think he would like a little bit of a vacation.
Yeah, Brett, I don't think you ought to take that trade. No, David Punt is the state director for Minnesota. So yeah. Let me get that on the record and get it straight. All right, let's bring our panel back in, and let's get going back here on our COS perspective. Hello, Gary. Welcome back. Debbie. And the state director of Missouri, Brett Sterling.
Yeah, I kind of thought that maybe some of our Missouri team might have contacted you and just say, "Hey, can we trade this guy? Can we send him somewhere else?"
You might consider that trade, Brett. I understand it's going to come with personalized betting and everything. So.
yeah. Not if it has to go to Minnesota. I was just in Minnesota about 6 months ago, and
they have heated blankets there too. So
they do have heated blankets. I'll stay on a shanty out on Lake Mille Lacs and ice fish. I'll do that.
And lots of child care, early learning places.
Yeah, you don't have to worry about your kids. Your kids are taken care of.
I could open up a Somali early learning center. I could. There you go.
There you go.
Point. That pays better than being state director of Missouri.
Oh my. All right, folks. Well, this is our segment called the COS Perspective, and this is the second broadcast or the second segment that we've done in this series, the COS Perspective series. And in this series, we're trying to delve a little bit deeper into things that are going on in our country. More, we do a lot of commentary on our broadcast, but we're trying now to go in this segment. We're trying to go a little bit deeper. So tonight we're going to talk about, the topic is, are things connected? Okay. So tonight we're going to discuss how things might be connected. Are the events that we see happening in this country involving politics, economics, culture, media, education, immigration, geopolitics? Oh my goodness, all sorts of geopolitical things. Are they all? We're asking a question. Are these all isolated events that are going on in our country, or is there a pattern? Is there a connection beneath the surface, you might say? And I'm not saying one creates the next event, but is there something happening in our country that allows that creates a connection here that allows these to occur? And we want to try tonight to see if there's something. Are there things going on in this country that forces that are underway in this country that, in other words, that these are connected in some way or another? So we're gonna look through 4 different lenses tonight. We're going to call them each a lens that will hopefully give us some insight into what's going on here. The first lens is called what's happening, and we're going to talk about some things that are in fact happening. And then the second lens will be, why is it happening? We'll delve into that. Debbie Stewart's going to take the first lens. Gary is going to do why it's happening, and Ken is going to talk about what does it mean? What does this all mean? And then Brett is going to be talking about the fourth lens, what should be done. And in this fourth lens, this is where the COS perspective comes into play, I think. And I hope he's going to. I hope he's going to bring the COS perspective into play on this, but because this is the COS perspective. This is about us as either our core values or about the pillars of the resolution that we're trying to get passed to call for a convention of states. This pertains to us. This all pertains to us. So I want to get started here. Debbie, let's let you lead off with what is happening. So what are some things going on?
Okay, well, I just kind of wrote some different areas of some in response to kind of what you had sent out. But the first thing is really something called unrestricted warfare. What's happening with that? Well, we know that this was an idea in a book in 1999 from China that had to do with, there's no rules in warfare, and there's nothing forbidden. And typically there's the military warfare, and then there's the non-military. And we've seen things like drug warfare. We've seen psychological warfare. We've seen media warfare, resource warfare, economic warfare. The list goes on and on. We've seen opium wars, maritime warfare, spying, the whole COVID-19 pandemic. There were so many moving parts of things that went on there. There was misinformation, cognitive biases, economic sabotage, social engineering, and fragmentation. We've seen artificial intelligence, right? That's another unrestricted warfare, cyber hacks. Canvas just got at the university level all over, just got hacked last week. And I use Canvas for my high school classes. So the United States needs to have like an increased awareness of China's ongoing action against the U.S. and to stimulate strategic discussion within higher levels of government. We really need to be aware of these things. So that was
I wonder if I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wonder if this was discussed at all at Trump's last his recent visit to China. Do you think this was discussed at all?
Well, I don't know. Part of unrestricted warfare is you don't really let the enemy know what you're doing unless you have a way of countering it. And usually when you counter their unrestricted warfare, you do it in a covert mentality too. Yeah. The regular military strategy is over. We're going to take our troops and we're going to march here. We're going to drop this bomb and things like that. So, a lot of unrestricted warfare is really, you can't really tell it's warfare almost until it happens.
Yeah.
And there's the fifth generation warfare, which is just social engineering, manipulating perceptions, things like that. So that was kind of the first area where I feel like is going on in a big way in so many different ways. And the problem is it's kind of like the frog in the kettle. You put the frog in the cold water and then you warm the water up slowly and you don't even realize the water's getting warmer around you. And I think as Americans, we tend to, you had asked a question earlier about, is there a connection? And what I'm noticing, that the blatant thing in front of me is when all these things are going on, we have a media that comes out and doesn't give the truth.
Yeah.
They sell the narrative as something else. So if it's bad, they sell it as good, or it's not a big deal. If it's good, they don't sell it at all. And so, I feel like, World War II Germany was a great example of all the propaganda there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And what they were able to do psychologically to Christians, Germans, whatever.
Yeah.
Then you mentioned civilization jihad, which is the strategy for Islam to come to America. And this was the book I ordered off of Amazon. It was amazing. It's about 35 pages. I read it yesterday. And this was a man that was part of the Muslim Brotherhood. And he basically said, hey, our goal is settlement of North America. We're going to come in and we're going to settle in as if it's our place now. and it is a 100-year plan. It's the 100-year plan isn't in there. That's in another document. But basically, they're saying we are going to make North America just an Islamic society. And they're about halfway into their 100-year plan right now. It was written by Muhammad Akram. And they will implement their settlement strategy in North America. We see that going on. And maybe, Dale, could you show that map real quick?
Sure.
I just thought it'd be good to see the breakdown in America, what's going on. We all know Muslim people that are wonderful people. So this is not, Muslims aren't all Islamic. Islamic is the jihadist thing, okay? But there are Muslims that do participate in Islam too. So, but if you look at the map, the states that are, first of all, there's about 4.5 million Muslims in America. And you can see the breakdown. New York has the most at 700, almost 3/4 million. And then California. And so the brighter states, the brighter the state, the more Muslims live in that area. And then, of course, the lightest color, which is typically in the middle region, has the least amount. Okay? So see California.
Wait a minute. Do I see 0 in Indiana?
Let's see. I have to pull mine up here because I can't see mine. Yeah, right. There's nothing there. We know that's not true. So something happens in the number there. I don't know what it is.
I just noticed that.
Yeah, and there isn't any in Alabama either, right?
Oh, you're right.
I didn't notice that before, or Oregon. So I'm not sure if that's just I'm not really sure. But
that's
you can
interesting.
See the tendency there. Now, in America, the Muslim population is about 3% of all Americans, but in New York, it's 6%. So it's doubled. And so that just kind of gives you an idea of the breakdown. And the East Coast is starting to load up over there too in Texas.
Yeah.
And of course, Michigan and Minnesota are not a surprise at all. So that's another area. Muslims are 25% of the world population right now. But remember, their goal is world dominance. Okay, assassination attempts was another thing we talked about. All right, so we know that we've had, there were a lot of attempts to kill President Trump before the Pennsylvania thing. There were 5 attempts to kill Trump from March 12th of 2016 to April 2024. They were like a guy trying to stab him or this or that, or they found out some information and they caught the guy. But we've had 4 attempts. 1 in Butler, PA, 2 down in West Palm, and then the last one was at the Correspondents' Dinner. So we know that is happening. Those are real recent examples. Is it okay if I jump to the SAVE Act real quick?
Sure.
Okay, so here's another thing. If the SAVE Act is not allowed to pass, then it would allow about 25 of our 50 states to vote without voter ID. 15 of those states have no voter ID laws. About 10 of those, you can go to the polls and you don't have to show your picture. But some of them make you show other documents or your address. So really, if they don't have a picture, they can't necessarily confirm that's you. So half of our states in our country will not require a photo ID. Talking about unrestricted warfare. So a nation like China or whatever can pay people to go out and vote that aren't really citizens, or they're voting several times and things like that. So that's the SAVE Act. We know it's been stalled in the Senate, so nothing's going on there. And actually, I just today, I don't know if you guys saw this, Georgia is blocking the election board from overseeing the elections tomorrow. The Georgia Supreme Court has recently overturned several rules passed by the state election board, which limits its authority and restricts transparency in the election tomorrow. And it has raised questions about integrity of the process. So even though they're an election integrity state as far as the SAVE Act goes, they're not allowing the state election board to be in there to watch what's going on.
Yeah.
So you got things like that. And then just related developments like cyber attacks that are going on. There's lots of those. Some of the recent ones was Grubhub, City of St. Paul, the port of Seattle and the airport there, both were attacked in 24. We all know Ascension, the hospital system, was attacked 2 years ago. Just recently, I told you the Canvas. So it makes you wonder about Can they hack into our water system, right? Can they impact our infrastructure here? What are our vulnerabilities? So these are kind of things, our racial extremism attacks. We've seen ISIS. We've seen ideological and jihadist propaganda, AI that could be exploited by criminal organizations, and lots of new technologies to challenge our security. So those were kind of the things that I wrote down that I thought, would be. And then immigration has, of course, been a huge issue.
I'm gonna put you on a spot here. Which of these concerns you the most?
Well, I think unrestricted warfare could use all of the other ones I just listed. Like if I'm China, I'm going to use what the jihadists are doing. I'm going to use what the assassination attempts are doing. I might be behind them, though, like you said, connected. I'm going to make sure I buy off our senators and legislatures so they are not going to, vote for voter integrity, or they're not going to vote for conservative principles. I'm going to fragment this country as much as I can and in as many ways as I can. So I would say if I had to look at all these, they would all come under unrestricted warfare.
Okay. Very good. Very good. So you think that there's an environment there. There's a place there, like I said, where these different things are happening. They're not one's not causing another, but there's an environment there where they can happen.
Well, and I love the word environment, because earlier when you were talking again, the thing that came in addition to the media is what we do is like the Muslims do. They go ahead and the first thing they do is they teach you how bad it is to be Islamophobic. And so that's one of their precursors. So once they silence everybody in the nation, because you don't want to be seen that way, then they can implement their strategy. And I think that's happening with all of this unrestricted warfare. You become a bad person if you're against this, or if you say something about China, or, you're attacking the Chinese students that Trump said he wants how many thousands of kids to be going to our university from China, when we know there's a lot of people in China spying on us. We've got all these reports there. So if you look at the history over the last couple of years, they're finding people all the time at airports and, bringing drugs in and Ebola and all these things. And I think that we have allowed America to be like, hey, anybody can come in, and we don't want to be restrictive. So no immigration laws, no requirements. Oh, you know what? Change your society every way you want, because hey, we don't want to offend you. And so we have this environment that is just open season for takeover and changing our culture.
Dale, I want to post a comment. We have a comment on Debbie's map here. I thought was kind of interesting. So just a comment I want to go ahead and put up from one of our viewers.
Uh-oh.
Notice that the brightest states on Debbie's map are 4 of the largest electoral college states.
They are.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
They are, and that is one of their goals. They're wanting to change the landscape of our nation, the Islamic jihad, which is now not coming in with guns and knives. It's the voting booth. It's the polls. So that was a great tie in there. I should have said that.
That's a really great observation. I'll tell you.
Yep.
Thanks, Rick.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Who did that? Who made that comment?
That was our friend Rick Lyon.
I was going to say Rick or Susan, right?
Very good. Okay, Debbie, that's very good. Very good. Those are some things that are happening, and good examples. Good examples. So let's go now to why is it happening? And Gary, let's can you inform us on that topic?
Well, Dale, I don't know if I can inform you, but I could definitely open a can of worms.
Oh, that's all we need. Another can of worms.
Oh.
Okay.
So I would like to start with a famous quote attributed to Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And he said, in politics, nothing happens by accident. if it happens, you can bet it was planned that way. Now, some people say that that was misquoted or misattributed to FDR, but the quote's been around for 70 years, and it's stuck around because it has a ring of truth. Whether that's exactly what he said or not, I don't know, but it has a ring of truth. And one of the places that I think we should look for why things happen the way they are is to look at who might want things to happen a certain way. I want to go back now 50 years to the Church Committee, and you can look this all on Wikipedia. You can look it up. The Church Committee did a deep dive into what the intelligence community, particularly the CIA, the FBI, and so on, were doing. They made discoveries that they were doing, for example, drugging U.S. citizens to do mind control experiments. They were involved in domestic surveillance of domestic political groups and so forth. And the biggest one I want to really talk about is what was called Operation Mockingbird, where they were paying journalists to write certain things, report certain things in a certain way. And this all started really in the, to combat the Cold War. Following World War II, we were in this Cold War with Russia, and Russia was supposedly, or the Soviet Union then, was supposedly paying journalists in Europe to write things favorable to communism. And so, hey, well, the CIA needed to combat that by controlling what the, media in the United States said, right? Sounds perfectly logical. So the CIA has been involved for really 80 years probably in shaping public opinion through propaganda. And I believe that. You may believe or not believe, but they shape public opinion through propaganda. And so, for example, I think Debbie just mentioned, the media. Oh, if you are critical of Islam, oh, you're an Islamophobe. You're a terrible person if you don't, welcome our Islamic friends and brothers into our country. And so these things go on in that way. And I want to quote something else, going back to the CIA. You probably remember when Tucker Carlson went to Moscow, I think, and interviewed Vladimir Putin. And one of the things Putin said is, in the United States, the real power belongs to the CIA, not the elected officials. Of course, Tucker Carlson was very widely criticized for not pushing back on this by the media, of all people, who would push back on such a statement. But this was kind of said in the context of the 2014, what was called the Ukrainian uprising. And there was a government in the Ukraine, president of Ukraine was favorable to Russia. And that revolution overthrew that government and replaced it with a leader, a president, who was favorable to the West and the United States. And this was well known to have been a part of a CIA operation to overthrow one of these color revolutions that the CIA has been involved in. It's a well-known fact they've been involved in these color revolutions to overthrow foreign governments that are not favorable to the United States, so they are replaced with governments that are favorable to the United States. And again, all this Operation Mockingbird and so forth, you can read about Wikipedia. It's not something way out there. The other thing that I would talk about, the CIA, the FBI, the intelligence community. You may recall beginning in 2016, the intelligence community, the CIA, FBI, and so on, were involved in an orchestrated campaign to discredit Donald Trump. And, we had the Hunter Biden laptop, we had the Russia collusion hoax. Obama knew what the truth was. Hillary Clinton knew. Joe Biden knew. Comey, the CIA or FBI director, knew. Brennan, the head of the CIA, I believe at the time, he knew. Andrew McCabe, Patrick Strozak, James Clapper, Adam Schiff, all these people knew. And why did this get orchestrated in the way it did? I would suggest to you it wasn't an accident. It was planned and it was organized. And I think that whether it's the CIA and the State Department kind of work hand in glove with each other, whether they were the main power behind it, I don't know. I can't prove it. But there's certainly a lot of reason to believe that the things that are happening, there is a reason, and there's some powers that be who want these things to happen. And another example was this, in effect, invasion of illegal immigrants into America during the Biden administration. I believe the powers that be want Americans divided, fighting with each other, and in internal conflict because it allows them to rule easily. When the people are informed, when the people are involved, know what's going on and pay attention to government, then you tend to get good government. When there's a lot of conflict and nobody knows what's going on and all you know is everybody's fighting with each other and criticizing each other, it's very easy for the people in power to stay in power. They may be behind the scenes controlling things, but I think there's powerful forces that are not the elected officials in America who control a great deal of what happens and what the public perception is about what is happening in America.
Well, I think maybe you've already answered this question, but one of my questions would be who benefits from all this instability and division in our country? Who benefits from all this?
You know, I don't know that I can name names, but you know, the top 1/10 of 1% of the people that are the ultra wealthy, millionaires and billionaires, they go right along and sort of unchallenged. Their wealth has grown tremendously during this period, particularly of inflation. They benefit from inflation. They become much more wealthy. The average citizen is not benefiting from inflation. The average citizen does not benefit by the conflict that takes place. The elites of society, they live in gated communities. They're away from that. They have private security. If you're an elected official, you get the police protection and so forth. And government is working great for the people at the top. It's not working great for the average people in America. And I think that is not something that's just happened by accident. I think there are people who have a lot of political power and they keep the same people in power. If you want to maintain the status quo, you can probably get money for your reelection campaign. If you want to shake up things, you're probably going to get a primary challenger. And so the powers that be, things are working for them and they're working hard to stay in power. And I do believe that the CIA and the intelligence community and the FBI and so forth, I think there's a lot of cooperation among those people to keep things the way they want them to be.
Very interesting. Very interesting. I mean, if you can create this division, this instability by whatever means that you just mentioned, Gary, then things like the unrestricted warfare doctrine that Debbie talked about and all these other things, they have a place to flourish, right? I mean, that's because people are so divided and everything's so unstable that these things that Debbie talked about have a place to flourish.
One of the key things in democracies, republics around the world, is in a republic, if you have a shared culture, that republic is probably going to work because people have the same worldview, the same culture. when you start invading people with all kinds of foreign people who have different cultures and they don't want to become part of the melting pot of a new culture, but they want to keep their old culture, you're going to have division. And it's very hard for any country that elects its leaders to have peace and stability when you have so much division and cultural conflict going on. The other thing, I think, maybe the other big factor that's going on in America today, it's a rising spirituality. And, is that going to overtake all this division? I don't know. We'll see. But I think there is something really happening in America, a return to religion, a return to many traditional cultural values. Is that going to spread? Or the second generation of these illegal immigrants, are they going to adapt to American culture? We don't know, but it's definitely a counter move to what I think the elites have been pushing for, which is a society that has a lot of internal conflict because there's no longer a shared culture.
Excellent point. Excellent point. All right. Well, let's move on to the next lens. And Ken, this is your turn now. What does this all mean? Help us understand these issues beyond the headlines that we see day in and day out. What does this all mean, do you think?
Well, that's the $50 question, or the $1 million question, I should say. It basically comes down to, if with all the internals and things that are if they are all connected, as we are looking at the different aspects of how they are, maybe not, as you said, not tipping off the next event, but certainly connected in some way. What this all means is that basically the American promise and Western civilization in general is in grave danger. And I used a couple of books written by Ben Shapiro to bring out a couple of things I think that shows a little bit about what it all means. Threatened by forces that Americans must reaffirm the philosophy and culture, as like Gary was talking about, and history that have preserved the Union for more than 244 years. Before it's too late, these connections can lead to things that certainly not only divide us, but certainly look to tear down Western civilization as we know it. So before it's too late, that's the clarion call of the latest book that Ben Shapiro wrote. He talks about the right side of history. It's an accessible summary of the philosophical and religious underpinnings of Western civilization. So the values of Western civilization in America are essential to a prosperous and purposeful future. How to destroy America in 3 easy steps champions the role America plays, representing the highest culmination of those Western values, and what will be lost if she is fundamentally unmade. So of the many valuable insights of the book, it talks about the inadequacy of framing America's current crisis as a battle between the traditional camps, the political left and right. Instead, how to destroy casts the struggle between those who broadly agree on America's founding philosophy, culture, and history, whom Shapiro calls basically unionists, and the disintegrationists are on the opposite side of that, tearing it all down brick by brick. That I think we've seen very much represented over the last 10 years or so. Unionism suggests that despite our differences, we are at root Americans. The disintegrationists suggest that despite our American passports, we are at root different. So it brings up three pivotal pillars in the conflict between unionists and the disintegrationists. It's a tough one to say. Three pivotal pillars serve as the fronts of the struggle. So you have American philosophy, American culture, and American history. Without Americans' philosophy, reason collapses into tribalism. And without America's culture, individual rights collapse into collectivists. So without American history, the symbols that unite us divide us. And in his book, he describes America's philosophy as a belief in natural, unalienable rights that pre-exist government. So equality before the law, and the belief that the purpose of the state is to secure and enforce those two things. America's cultures balances a reciprocal relationship between respecting individual rights and fulfilling societal duties, inculcated by local associations. So family and houses of worship, those are integral parts of it. Its unique expression is found in an adventurous, risk-taking, pioneering spirit. And the third pillar is America's history is filled with promise and peril, triumph and tragedy. And the story of the nation slowly, but surely living up to its founding principles outlined in the Declaration of Independence and protected by the U.S. Constitution. So a republic of liberty, Shapiro's analysis of America's philosophy and culture reflects the values of the founding era and the classical liberal ideology that permeated the works of John Locke and James Madison and Thomas Jefferson. In a clear statement of his political beliefs, Shapiro proclaims, freedom, not virtue, is the goal of government. Virtue is the goal of individual man, pursuing right reason. So a task itself that requires freedom. So before you grant the government the power to wield a gun, it's absolutely necessary to think about what happens if your political opponent ends up on the trigger and you end up staring into the muzzle. When a monopoly on coercion is wedded with its self-assurance about morality, tyranny is the most frequent result. So the cultural and the philosophical chapters of How to Destroy remind the reader that while the founding fathers believed in the importance of a moral people steeped in Judeo-Christian values, it was the job of private institutions, families, voluntarily community associations, and religious establishments to instill the virtues necessary to exercise liberty in a free republic. Government cannot.
That's important. That's an important point I think you're making there.
Yeah.
Do you think with all the instability that Gary talked about that has been created in this country and some of the examples of what's going on that Debbie brought out, do you think is our society, are people disengaging? Are they becoming spectators rather than citizens?
Well, yeah, I believe that a lot of that's happening because basically they're looking to the government to take care of them in every way. So that pioneering spirit, the risk taking, all the things that made America great are lost because as Gary was talking about propaganda and you hear these things over and over and over and over again, pretty soon you believe, well, government, I don't have to worry about that. Government will take care of me. The government will handle my, birth. What's the old saying? Birth to grave is basically what comes about from that. So yeah, I believe there's a part of that already that's taken place in our country. On the other side of that, I still believe, as many of us do, that there is a spiritual awakening, that there is a search for deeper and more meaningful things in our lives. I think we've talked about that a number of times, where the younger males are going back to church. They're looking for something deeper than what's been given to them. And I think if you look at other societies that obviously have been dictated by their governments, there's a big hole. There's emptiness. There's no satisfaction in life in those areas. So I think to answer your question, I think so.
And if you recall, in our series lessons from Rome that Ken Whaley has been doing for us, one of the lessons in the fall of Rome was the disengagement of the public, the disengagement of the citizens. And I can certainly, I think you would agree, you can certainly see that what has been happening in this country can certainly lead to more and more disengagement. And I hope that's not the trend that we're going to pursue. But I think that's what this could all mean. Yeah, Debbie.
Well, and going along with that, nothing new under the sun. So many people in the Old Testament of the Bible would worship other gods. And I think that too many of those people who get into leadership, I'm talking more about the leadership now, they are all about the almighty dollar. I mean, even Greg Abbott, over 50 mosques have gone up in Dallas in 2 years. Come to find out, his largest donor is giving over $2 million a year to him, and he's a Muslim Pakistani. And so that's why somebody started digging, because wait, how do we get 50 mosques in 2 years, right? Yeah. And so he's given over $14 million now in total to Greg Abbott's campaign. So I just feel like there's too many people that they're tempted by money. I mean, it's a temptation, I think, for everybody. But as people who follow God as believers, kind of like, I love what Brett said, I'm a follower of Jesus. He's my one and only. We can't do that, because then we lose track and we lose total sense of what the goal is.
Yep. I think very good point. Very good point. Very good, Ken. Thank you very much. Very good. Well, you mentioned about what the $50 question is. I think we're coming to that $50 question right now.
I think I raised it. I raised it to $1 million question.
Oh, you raised it to $1 million question? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if you're playing Jeopardy, maybe the $50 box works for you, but I think it's the $1 million question that works.
Oh, I think you're right. And that $1 million question is Lynn's number 4 that we're going to look into. And that is what should be done. And Brett is going to tell us what needs to be done here. And I certainly hope he's going to bring in the COS perspective here on this. So, Brett?
Yeah, Dale, I think you hit on it a little bit. We're talking about the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. It's almost we're doing this in reverse. The Roman Empire expanded, conquering other countries, and then whenever they asked the people in those countries, hey, you need to fight, need to defend the empire, they would just look and it's like, I don't have anything in common with you. You conquered my country. But we're doing it in reverse. We're allowing all those people here. And so it's basically, it's kind of a national suicide. But I think, all these things do connect, and I think there's a commonality here to where you look at, I'll make maybe a semi-controversial statement that, in my opinion, the federal government is the largest contributor to social unrest in our world today. And I think it's because of some of the things we've been talking about. They build constituencies and pit those constituencies against each other. And by doing that, they're able to increase their power because, hey, you know what? This group over here is wronging your group. So you know what? The federal government, we can step in and we need to serve justice. So we'll make it better. Well, they don't make it better. So what they end up doing is they make both of those groups more dependent upon the federal government themselves. And so I think that we see this pretty consistently, and this is what it's kind of self-perpetuating, because as a legislator or as an elected official or maybe like somebody in a bureaucracy, I can say, okay, well, I can increase my importance and my power and my wealth by being the solution to as many people as possible. However, I don't really want to solve their problems. I kind of want to prolong them. It reminds me, if you remember these motivational posters, business posters, successories, there's a counter. The alter ego is called despair.com. And they have this one, and it has two hands shaking hands. And the theme is consulting. And the verse says, you can make a decent living solving the problem, but the really good money is in prolonging it. And I think that's exactly what they do. And so that is why the federal government gets into all these areas to where they have no constitutional authority, like having hearings on college sports. Let's get the federal government, let's get Congress in it. I mean, the NCAA has completely ruined college sports. So let's get the federal government and Congress involved in it. I'm sure that's going to make it a whole lot better. I mean, just all these different areas. So I think that comes down to where to looking at the Convention of States solution is that most people, even if they don't have to be conservative, but across the majority of people across the political spectrum agree that the federal government does too much, they spend too much, and they stay there too long. And they also agree that the federal government will never ever do anything to correct any of those things. And it's not because there's bad people there. There are, but it's not because everybody's evil. That's against human nature. So you have to have some type of external force to exert on the system to upset the status quo. And Convention of States is it. And that is where we come to where, like our resolution, we can do things like limit the size, scope, and jurisdiction of the federal government. That directly goes to the number of decisions that the federal government makes. We can discuss term limits for federal officials. Obviously, that means how long are they going to stay there? And also restoring fiscal restraints. How much money can they spend to do these things? So I think that the reason why people want to stay in power in positions of authority and stay in Congress for 30 or 40 or 50 years, because they can wield all this authority, they can accrete more wealth to themselves by, through campaign contributions, through, different multiple benefits, through speaking engagements, whatever. They're not going to want to let that go. However, the Article 5 Convention of States process, our framer, that's why it's there. Our framers were so wise to know this, so we can because they knew history. We don't know history. I mean, two-thirds of students graduating high school right now can't read and they can't add. I mean, so they certainly don't know our history. And so they understood that central governments always grow and they always feed themselves and they always try to accumulate more and more power, and that there's not been a government in history who's voluntarily relinquished power. They've all been defeated, generally violently. So the framers wanted to give us a way to self-correct, and that's the Convention of States process. And that's why we're here. That's why we dedicate so much time to that. And because it's only through the states acting as the board of directors, protecting their self-interests, overseeing the federal government. That's the only way that this is going to correct itself. However, as we pointed out, it is not going to happen without divine intervention, just like our 1787 convention, and a turn back to God, and a search in embracing absolute truth. If we can do all those things, it's difficult to do, but just like Dr. Tom Coburn said, I think that America has a chance to cheat history, and I still think that as well. So that's why I'm here. I think that's why we're here.
Very good. I think you're right. And we've talked about this tonight a couple of times about this returning to God, this faith movement in this country, that it could be what helps save the country. And if the instability in our society is as strong as we think it is, there will be a lot of effort at preventing that from happening. We need, I think it all comes down to self-government, getting involved, participating in elections and doing self diligence, monitoring the media, so forth and so on. That's all part of Convention of States, and I think that's what the solution to this whole thing is. But there are forces that there's no doubt about it. There are forces going on in our society that are creating an environment for things like what Debbie was talking about, things happening. So I think that's going to be a why. Anybody have any closing comments or observations they want to share?
I'll add a comment. I'll add a comment from our viewers based on the spirituality thing. Our friend David Nally says, "Spiritual warfare in high places." That's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The only closing comment I have is everyone get you and everybody you know, every liberty-loving person you know, go to www.conventionofstates.com/take_action. Get involved. Be a self-governing citizen. Help us save this republic for our children or grandchildren. Do it now. Get off the couch.
Well said.
Amen. Amen to that, brother.
Amen. Well
all right.
said.
Debbie, Gary, Brett, all of you, thank you for participating tonight. Been very good discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
All right, Ken. Good job. Good job.
I think it went
Well, let's start wrapping up here tonight, Ken.
All right.
If you're viewing or if you want to find our upcoming broadcast or any past broadcast, the easiest way is to search on YouTube for our YouTube channel, American Patriots for Convention of States. And I think, Ken, you got a link you're going to post up there for everyone, right?
I will post a way for people to be able to find that. Yes.
Okay. But search American Patriots for Convention of States. That's our YouTube channel. And there you find upcoming broadcasts as well as all past broadcasts. Okay. If you have any questions or comments about tonight's broadcast, drop us an email at raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. raiseyourvoicecos@gmail.com. So we'll let Maringo Mike close us out here. Any other viewer comments, Ken, that we need to share?
No, I think we got the ones that were pertinent tonight. I think we're in pretty good shape there.
All right. Good. Well, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. I hope you've enjoyed our broadcast, and we'll be here again next Monday night, same time, 7 p.m. Eastern. So hope to see you then. Everyone, have a very good night, and thanks again for tuning in.
Night.
Marengo Mike here with a reminder of the importance of this year as we continue to grow the grassroots army of volunteers and the mission of using the Constitution to fix the ills of our government. Use the QR code if you haven't signed the petition and consider using your talents to become an active volunteer. Thank you, and God bless.